Hey, this is Mikey with another After Effects tutorial. This one's pretty exciting. Today we're going to be using a new plugin called Lockdown, which is really amazing. And we're using FaceApp to create an old man Captain America, but this time in a different movie.
Does anyone want to get out?
Mikey's Production Tips is brought to you by Cinema Spice, After Effects tools, video overlays and backgrounds, and sound effects.
So the plugin we're going to be using is called Lockdown. And I know I don't usually do tutorials featuring third-party plugins, but I couldn't resist this one because it's such a neat new plugin that is really filling a gap in After Effects that you just really can't do any other way. You can, but it's really hard. So here's Lockdown, and what it does, it's able to track meshes onto distorting objects and put whatever you want on it and lock it down. It's really cool. aescripts.com. I'll have some links down in the description. Disclaimer, this link is an affiliate link, so if you do decide to purchase the plugin, use this link and I can get a little kickback and help support this channel. So let's kind of show you how it works. First off, this is what we're doing, is we're taking a clip of Captain America in the elevator, and we're making him look old. And then at the end of the tutorial, after I show you how to use Lockdown, I'm going to give you one more little tip about making someone look old, and that's making their nose and their ears and their cheeks bigger and sag a little bit. And you can see I did that and was able to track it in so it follows the footage. All right, so let's get started. So I have the clip that I'm going to use. It's just a short clip from Captain America Winter Soldier. Now, I will say that with Lockdown, there are some limitations as how far something can move and still create a good track. And so be careful with the clips you use. Something like this works pretty good, where he's kind of moving around, but he's not turning his head all the way from left to right. Something like that is going to break the track. So a Lockdown works as there's a script and a plugin. What you do is you have this Lockdown script. I have a doc down here, and there's a set of controls and buttons that you have to go through, and there's 9 different ones, and you have to do them in order. And it's very specific. If you're not doing them in order, then it's going to not work. So make sure you follow all of the orders. And first thing you do is you pre-compose your footage, but if you use this button here, it'll automatically apply the Lockdown plugin that couples with this script. So I'm going to do that. And it pre-composed it, and then we can see we have the Lockdown effect right here. And this is where step 3 through 8 are. And then the next thing I'm going to do is there's this optional tracking filter. And I've done some tests with this, and it works really good. So I'm going to click that, and what it does is it's doing kind of like a high-pass filter. And if you do want to make any changes, say it's a little bit too much of a halo right here, you can see that little edge. Well, we can take this blur radius of the fastbox blur and bring it down. And what this does is it just creates some nice texture for Lockdown to track. And we can turn it on and off as we're going. Just make sure you turn it back on every time you need to track. And we might have to track multiple times. And then also, I'm going to go and once I find this, I'm going to go to the end. And I've already done this, is I've took this last frame and I've made it as a still frame. And then I brought that into the FaceApp that you can get on your mobile phones. And you can see I've got different, you can do a beard, old man with a beard. I ended up using the mustache from that, but just the way that I ended up doing the tracking, it was hard to get all of this extra hair down there. And just a basic old man. And I kind of like the eyes around the one with the beard a little better. So let's first do all of the tracking, lock this thing down, and then we can take those images that we created using FaceApp and then map it right back onto this face. And then let's go in here at step 3. So we did step 1 and then step 2. And then step 3 is the control click, or if you're on a Mac, it's command click to layer to create tracking points. So I want to add tracking points all over this face. And there's a way where you can automatically kind of create an array by just holding down Command or Control and drag a box, and it creates an array of points. I want to be a little bit more detailed and intentional about where I'm putting them. And I want to put them along areas that are going to be moving definite boundaries between things like this jaw line between his jaw and his neck, around the mouth, around the eyes, things like that, just to create a more detailed mesh. So I'm going to start with the jawline. I'm going to start right here next to the ear. I'm going to hold down Option or Command. I guess, let's see, Control. Yeah, Control on Windows. I'm on a Mac. So Command or Control. And I can just start click, and I'm going to add points right along the jawline. I don't want to be too many, but I also don't want to have too few. And I know from just experimenting that this area over here is going to give me a little bit of trouble, so I might have to add more points later. And up on the forehead, I can be pretty... I don't have to be too close because there's not a whole lot of movement going on his forehead. Okay, so there's your basic outline. Let's go in, outline his ear as well. And maybe some of this in his ear as well. I'm going to go down the neck. A little more detailed where the jaw might move over the neck. And just a little bit of the stuff that I'm going to add, just the collar in here, just to help with the track. Okay, let's go in and start working around the mouth. And some across the lips. Some of these wrinkle lines. Now, again, I know he turns his face a little bit, and so I want to make sure that where his nose is moving over this side of his cheek, I've got some good points. So I'm going to do quite a bit right here. And then on the opposite side where the nose is. Around the eyes. You just want to be a little more detailed in all the main features. Add some in the hair. The hair on this image seems to track pretty well, so I don't need to do a whole lot. Maybe add just up here, just to get close to the edge. Okay. And let's add a few for the forehead. Around the sideburn. Now, I'm going to be a little bit more selective and careful. As I did this the first time, there was some issues right around here where it's kind of real soft looking. So I'm going to kind of make sure I hit some of these texture points. And be careful not to put too many points right here because I don't want it to, because it ended up moving all around and doing crazy stuff. This is looking pretty good. So let's give it a track and see what it looks like. And so before I track, I need to turn these filters back on. So it's got some more texture to look at. And let's hit this press to track points, which is number 4. And just to show you how fast this is, I'm not going to speed this up or cut anything out. You can see it's 56 frames and it's going through. It's about halfway done. Okay, so pretty fast, but obviously the more points you have, the longer it's going to take. So as you can see, as we scrub through this, it's not bad, but some of these points are appearing and disappearing. So what that is they're just doing partial tracks, and you can interpolate those partial tracks throughout the rest of the thing. It's pretty smart that way. So if I check this, then say these ones right here near the cheek, they're going to be, and I'm already noticing some issues here. So like right here, there's not a lot. Let's see if I boost this up a little bit. That might be better. I'm going to retrack this. Now, obviously, I did speed that up. I cut out time on that one. I just wanted to show you real time on the first one. All right, let's see if there's any points. Yeah, there's a few points that are kind of being messed up and moving around right here near the jaw. So I'm going to just delete those. So when you have lockdown selected, you can deselect or select points. And if you hold down Option, you can delete points. Option click will delete them. All right, let's see what that looks like. And there's some up here too that, you know, well, these ones that are hanging over obviously are being a little weird. This one right here is acting a little funny. Okay, this section's looking pretty good. Now let's focus over here. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of weirdness going on over here. So let's go in. Looks like these 5. These ones down on the chin are also didn't quite track right. This ended up, I will say this shot ended up being a little bit harder to track than I was expecting. I've used lockdown on other shots that worked pretty flawlessly, but there's a lot going in on this one. All right, so what we have there seems to be tracking pretty good. Right here, this one, I see. There. Now we need to add a few more over here, see if we can get it locked down. So let's go in, add one down here. I'm going to add 3 in every spot that I want at least one to show, because sometimes that doesn't quite work out. And so maybe one of them work. Let's turn those filters back on. Okay, let's see how we did. All right. These ones up here worked. This one and this one right here, we're drifting a little bit. I just want 2 more points. I'm gonna move it inside a little bit closer away from the edge. Let's see if those work. And track points. All right, let's see how we did. All right, I think we might have got it. This one right here is dead. This one's bad. These 3 didn't work out. All right. All right, I think this is going to work. Now that I have all of this tracked, I want to add the mesh to it. And so I can manually connect these things to create some geometry, or I can use the auto, and I'm going to do a bit of both. I want to do as much as I can manually first to make sure that the lines that I want to be connected are connected, and then I'll auto for the rest. So to do this manually, you click on the one that you want to start with, and then you hold down Command Shift or Control Shift if you're on Windows, and then click, and then click. Okay. So this looking pretty good. I also want to connect these ones right here. All right. Now from here, I'm going to press the auto triangulate, and it should fill in the rest. Now there's some spots that I do want to delete, some connections. So like right here, if I hold down Option, I can click on these lines, delete some of those connections, some of these over here. Just where you have kind of this overhang. I don't want any geometry in there. Now we've got some weirdness going on here. So let's fix this up. I'm going to have to come in here and fix that. We'll fix that. And looks like there's another one over here that didn't connect right. Okay. Now let's go to the end where my frame is. Remember that the last frame is where I took the still from and turned it into the old man from the FaceApp. And so that's where I want to do this next step, is on this last frame, which is apply mesh on this frame. So I'm going to click that. And we can see we have another little error right there. So let's fix that one. Let's see if that fixed it. So apply mesh on this frame. And do we have a little hole over here? Yeah, we got a couple of holes over here. Okay, I think we got everything. Okay, so these geometries need to be either squares or triangles, and so sometimes it creates some things that have more than 4 sides, and so that's where you get the holes. Things are looking pretty good. Now, the next step, we go through, we did the auto, return to lockdown script, and down here it's a lockdown. So when you click this, you have to wait. Oh, make sure I have the layer selected. You have to wait until the dialog box pops up and says you're done. Otherwise, it could cause some error. Your clip is locked down. Okay. So right now, it should look no different than just the normal clip. But if we were to go into this stabilized, then what you see here is a stabilized face. Everything's kind of staying still. Now there's a little bit of distortion going on, but we'll solve that just by where we're applying the new face to. So let's go in now and find our face, and just because of the limitations of the free version of FaceApp, it didn't export it out at full resolution, so I'm just going to scale this up. But first, let's bring the opacity. All right, that's looking pretty good where that's at. So let's just take a look at this before I go in and mask anything out, just to see how well we did. And pretty cool. There's a little bit of stuff going on around here by the nose. And he blinks, and these eyes aren't blinked, so we're gonna have to go in and cut out the eye holes and the mouth as well. But it tracked in really nice. So let's go in and mask some of this out. So it's only getting what we need. Now his ear's a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna cut out the end of that. And maybe some of this right here was a little bit funny. Add a feather to that. Let's go in and cut out the eyes. subtract those masks. Add feathers to that as well. And the mouth. Now the lockdown ended up doing really good around the lips, so we can just kind of go in and just do the middle where it opens up a little bit, just to make it look more realistic. All right, that's pretty good looking. So let's go back to... All right, this is so neat to see. Now let's add in that mustache from the other shot. So I'm going to just duplicate this layer and find the mustache one and hold down Option and drag, and it should just replace. But then I'm going to come in here and let's move this mask. All right. The FaceApp, when it makes someone look older, it also changes the colors a little bit. People's skin colors change when they get older, and so you can see it's a little bit different from the original. So let's go in and do some color correction to kind of fix that. And so on this one, let's add the lumetri, drop the contrast a little bit, and the highlights. And then I'm going to keyframe these because there is a subtle change of light through the scene as well. So the exposure changes. Okay. I'm going to copy that, place it on this top one, and that's mostly there, but this one with the mustache ended up being a little bit different, so let's maybe reduce the saturation. Okay. And one other thing I want to do is I want to brighten up the original footage, the eyes of the original footage. They're a little bit dark, so let's solo that layer, and I'm going to just take a mask over the eyes, add the lumetri color again. This time I'm going to go down to my effects, and I'm going to these compositing options, hit the plus sign, and looks like I need to put that up at the top. Hit the plus sign, and it just grabs from mask 1, so it's only going to apply the color correction right where the eyes are. This is all covered up anyways, so it shouldn't matter. So let's go in, basic color correction, and reduce the contrast and bring up the exposure. I think I'm going to come into this mask and feather it just in case. Okay. And right around the hairline, let's fix that. Let's just have the gray kind of coming in a little spots. And where his sideburn is. Let's take a look at that. That's pretty good. All right. Let's render this out or preview it out and see what it looks like. All right. I mean, looks pretty good. I mean, it's and this isn't a deep fake, and I think it looks better than lots of the deep fakes out there. It's like a fake deep fake or fake deep, whatever you want to call it. So that's basically the end of the lockdown portion of the tutorial. Again, this is a really cool plugin. You can see some other examples. I've got some links to other tutorials down in the description, and definitely go check it out. Again, if you do decide to purchase it, use this link, and I will get a little bit of a kickback to help support this channel. Now, one more thing I want to add to this, because after the fact, after I got it all locked down, is to let's go in and make his nose a little bit bigger, his ears bigger, and maybe sag his cheeks a little bit, because when you do age, those are things that happen. So I want to show you how to do that in After Effects and be able to track it as he moves his face around, so it's, you know, it looks natural. So let's just Let's duplicate that layer. We don't need to, but I just like to do things on a duplicate layer so that I can see before and after fairly easy. All right, so the first thing we want to do in order to make his ears and his nose and his cheeks look more old is to do some tracking. And we're going to track the 3 points that we want to apply some distortion to. So let's go to my tracker. And we're going to track motion. Now I can come in here and I can do 3 different tracks, or I can come in and track type is to go to the parallel corner pin or something like that, and it gives you 4 points. And then I switch it to raw and it has 4 points that aren't connected, which is kind of neat. So I'm going to come in here, point 1, we'll have this be the nose. Point 2 be the ear, and let's pick a spot that we think the ear can track. Point 3, it can be down here, the cheeks. And maybe something with the eyes. Let's go the eyebrow because he does blink and I don't want that to mess up the track. Okay, so I'm going to track these points. And we're at the end, so let's track backwards. All right, pretty good track. So now that we have that tracked, I'm going to add to this the liquefy effect. And I'm going to need to have 4 different liquefy effects for the 4 different points. So effect, distort, liquefy. And I'm going to duplicate this. So there's 4 of them. Let's go down into our effects. Let's give us some more space here. Open up the motion trackers. Gonna run out of space real quick here. And these effects as well. Let's start with this first one. And this right here, the distortion mesh offset, is I want to link to the feature center. So the first one, let's go to the first one. And then you can see that it adds, it's not 0, 0 anymore, which is where it starts. We need to subtract those numbers. So it's 1322.3, comma 628.2. And then it should be back to 0, and that's where we want it. So we just need to do that for all 4 points. All right, I've got those all connected. Now that they're connected, we can start using these liquefies to do what we want it to do. So let's come in here to the first one, and remember that was the nose. So let's come in here and bring the brush size up, say 100. And I'm just going to liquefy and increase this nose size. And then maybe get the drag tool and drag it down a little bit because it's got a little heavier. Okay, now let's do the ears. And I'm going to just drag these ones out. Let's preview that. And see, it tracks right to the ear, right where it should. That's pretty cool. And the next was the cheeks. Make those a bit saggy. And then last was the eye. And let's see, what do we want to do with the eye? Maybe we can make the whole thing, this whole face sag a little bit. maybe a little bit more up here. Okay, let's preview that, see what it looks like. I think it's gonna look pretty good. All right, let's look at that without. So you can see adding those little things really does make them look older. And you can see they just track right to the face. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Now, I am really impressed with this plugin. Really cool. Definitely check it out. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial, and I want to see what you make. Maybe you make some cool fake deep fakes. They're not real deep fakes because it's not using the computer machine learning. It's more manual, but I think you get a really cool end result, and you have a lot more control over how it looks. So thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and we'll see you next time.